Hi everyone, what a past couple of weeks for us patient Astra Militarum commanders. We've had Morty and Glory leaking out a ton of rules for our new codex, and the GW previews confirming a lot of what he shared. The starter army set, which is the only way to get the new book, was on pre-order yesterday and will be in our hot little hands on Saturday the 26th of November. So I'll collate all those previewed by GW and give my take on where I think they may put us from a competitive point of view. So first up is the Atelian Rough Riders, which I'm looking forward to a lot, mainly because I'm going to be proxying some Def Corps of Krieg riders I've got waiting to be painted. The GW preview shows that their Lancers will have 2 attack profiles being the frag, giving us 3 hits at strength user AP -1 and 1 damage, which into non-armor of content infantry will be very decent. And the melter tips with a modest +2 strength AP 4 and respectable damage 3. Now these in isolation aren't too bad, but with a common Astra Militarum strength 3, these will be pretty bland into their intended targets of infantry and vehicles respectively. However, there's also been leaked a copy of the data sheet on Instagram and Reddit, and oh boy do these look tasty. Strength 4, toughness 4, 2 wounds, 2 attacks, and critically a +2 strength on the charge, delivering the frags at strength 4, strength 5, with up to 6 hits, or 9 for the sergeant, and the melter tip with 2 attacks at strength 8, which is going to be brilliant. These will make for a formidable melee unit and will make Bolgrams look pretty bland in comparison from a damage output point of view. Now, also having weapon skill of 3+ is a significant organic boost for any Astra Militarum unit, and the data sheet is looking remarkably similar to a poor old Primaris Space Marine. And tying a leak from Morty and Glory is the new infantry order for fixed bayonets, changing to be +1 weapon skill and +1 to AP, which will clearly boost the melter tips to be a lovely AP -5 on the 2 attacks. What we'll need to see is whether an infantry officer can issue orders to a cavalry unit, but given the data sheet has a platoon keyword, we can assume this will be true. So overall, these do look very, very strong with a potential weapon skill of 2+, being crazy good and clearly as accurate as Custodes, which is pretty funny. It's my guess that these will make an appearance in many competitive lists in the new year. Right, now let's check out the data sheets and weapons of Leman Russ, Rogel Dawn and Baneblade. A worry I've got is that the Leman Russ may become inefficient compared to the shiny new Rogel Dawn. Of course, this can only be assessed with the unit cost known, but a new 13 wounds and a cool 6 attacks on Leman Russ looks to be modernising it a lot better. I'd guess 13 wounds is a purposeful change, avoiding something like a Tau railgun being able to one-shot a Leman Russ, leaving it on a single wound if they roll the full damage roll. The Rogel Dawn with its 17 wounds will make a fantastic mid-table bully, with crucially toughness 9, meaning melters and fusion weapons wounding on a 5+, which will massively boost its survivability. Now the glorious Baneblade will likewise get toughness 9 and now 30 wounds, which I think a lot of opponents will struggle to deal with. Of course, will the Baneblade increase in points? The GW article explains that the sponsor weapons will be baked into the cost, so actually cheaper overall. While this in isolation looks pretty overpowered, we can never forget that we are the last 8th edition codex, and these changes really are just modernising our army into 9th edition. Of course, what is yet to be seen is where Astra Militarum will be in the meta. Will we be overpowered? Time will tell, of course. And on the tank weapons, the turret weapon rule is confirmed, allowing them to still shoot even if locked in melee. So now all benefiting from an 8th edition Baneblade rule. This is further boosted by a +1 weapon skill, which clearly means a blizzard skill of 3+ Baneblade turret weapon will be absolutely glorious. Gone will be the days of being tagged in melee and losing your blast keyword turret weapon. This may see much more aggressive early play with Leman Russes, being charged early on in-game, locking enemy units having to deal with a toughness 8 target, and still hammering other enemy units with its turret weapon. Now, Morty and Glory has discussed that grinding advance will be gone, which I think is a real shame as we can be rolling less dice overall. This will be offset by the accurate blizzard skill And from the GW preview, a more reliable number of shots from the battle cannon being D6 plus 3, which is an average of 6, but of course could be at worst only 4. From the new regiments shared and leaked, none talk about real number of shots. But however, from the leaked tank rules, again, pound them to dust will change to be basically getting you a minimum of 3 or 6 number of shots from the blast keyword. This will offset when targeting infantry units, but obviously nothing against vehicles or monsters. And I hope Hail of Fire is still in the new book from a stratagem point of view. And finally, on turret weapons, is the modernized battle cannon with a flat 3 damage, which could be expected, and the oppressor cannon on the Rogal Dawn be essentially a 90-inch demolisher cannon. And with that in mind, my fear that Leman Russ may become inefficient compared to the Rogal Dawn could be true, but overall, more wounds, higher toughness, turret weapon rules, and modernized weapons is really going to boost our gameplay. Okay, now to regimental doctrines. As you know, we're moving to essentially custom doctrines, being able to choose 2 for your army. Now overall, tactically this is fine, but thematically is a bit of a bummer. Being able to give Cadians a doctrine meant for Mordians or Valhallans is a bit weird, but honestly, in the scheme of things, it isn't the biggest of issues. And looking at the 5 doctrines previewed, there are the Valhallans, which basically are the same, whilst Armageddon's ignoring AP-1 indicates we're going to probably lose Armor of Contempt. Veteran Guerrillas looks pretty bland, and Mordians getting heavy 2 on las guns matches the leaks for the infantry order front rank fire, second rank fire. And Math Hammer shows you'd be getting less shots on target at short range, but more at longer range, meaning overall you're basically in the same place for that order. Expert Bombardiers is cool, giving Voxcasters and Sentinels a +1 to hit for artillery, which is very thematic, but also could indicate that maybe Astra Militarum will be getting affected by the same indirect nerf on the balanced data slate whenever it's re-released. So at this point, Expert Bombardiers excluded, pending balanced data slate. Nothing here seems crazy from a regimental point of view. Now on to orders. The splashing of orders across units will remain, and a nice buff is it will also affect vehicles as well. Interestingly, the keyword platoon and squadrons is called out, and I'm looking forward to what the platoon keyword does for us. Again, from the Morning Glory leaks, the infantry orders overall are a boost with fixed bayonets, as said, giving us a nice buff on Rough Riders, and so we'll take aim, as I've looked at in a previous video. What is confirmed by GW is the Perfectus orders, and the 2 that are showed forwards for the Emperor and get back in the fight being essentially the same as current, but we can agree that a Commissar being able to issue their own unique orders is a great way to give them a reason to be played on the tabletop. I'm also interested to see how they improve the leadership of nearby infantry units. So order-wise, capturing what Morning Glory has leaked, including the full Commissar and tank orders with 2 giving out OPSEC. So the new orders are really going to boost us in a competitive scene point of view. Right next is the unique rules for the Death Corps of Krieg, Cadian Jungle Fighters and Cadian data sheets. Now straight up, these aren't anything crazy, with mini transhuman on Krieg being cool, but if your opponent is putting strength 6+ weapons into guardsmen, they probably got their target priority wrong. Also statistically, rolling 3s to wound as opposed to 2s is cutting at a 17% chance, which while material, I'd say the circumstances for it paying off are pretty limited. Now for the Cadians, getting an additional hit on 6s in melee is probably a downgrade if they don't keep their strength 4. Cadians getting additional hits on 6s is better than rerolling 1s to hit from the current doctrine, and from a Math Hammer point of view, if the Khazrakans get this could be very powerful, given all the special weapons they're probably going to be able to take. And stratagem-wise, those previewed include a downgraded Vengeance for Cadia, and the Valhallan tank infantry order, fire on the command is now a stratagem, that depending on how the platoon keyword interacts could be helpful, fending off Drukhari or Harlequin units that avoid you falling back. The Vicious Trap stratagem has had a serious upgrade with a potential 2d3 mortal wounds and made easier by having Cadians. Any units that have the mill to mine keywords may be castricans, and NS Slimarbo is on the battlefield. This overall is a good boost and modernisation of this old stratagem. With the prevalence of Terrain in 9th edition, it could see a fair bit of play. I guess the benefit of the new Doctrines structure is a lot of previously regimental lock stratagems will be able to be widely used across any army, which is a good thing, of course. And very finally, Slimarbo's weapons have been modernised, which is great. Scout Sentinels have been greatly toughened with an extra strength, toughness and wound. And overall, the 3 ordnance batteries look pretty remarkably bland, considering they're all rumored to be 70 points and inefficient versus 3 mortars in a mortar team. And of course, the Death Strike looks absolutely ridiculous with a maximum of 16 mortal wounds, albeit only to targets within 3 inches to be determined how big the target marker is. As per the rumours I heard over 6 months ago, there will be 3 different warhead types to choose from, with the best part being that you can choose a type at the beginning of the game, so presenting a really nasty threat for your opponent to deal with. So overall, things are looking good for Guard in the sense that our codex looks to be completely modernised with tougher units, more damage weapons and stratagems that will be more flexible in application and actually useful in their intended purpose. So what do you think of all this? Let me know in the comments. So keep your bayonet sharp, lasgun oiled, faith in the Emperor strong, patron platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn, Tank Commander Mitchell, Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten, Colour Sergeant DuPont, Sergeants Udall, Gilliam, the Colonel Merrill, Veterans Gibson, Hall, Lundeen, Guardsman's Beard, Coquelin, Flint, Hills, Malik, Nitton, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin, Conscript Bosun, England, Goodwin.